it's your girl Nisi, and I'm back with another breast cancer video. This is part two. I'm going to try to begin where I left off. The last video, I did not go into what type of cancer I was diagnosed with, so I'm going to take the time to do that first before I actually jump into the other things that I wanted to come and talk about today. So I was diagnosed, like I said, it was my left breast. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in my left breast. The type of cancer that I was diagnosed with is ductal carcinoma, which accounts for the majority of breast cancers in women. Also, it was triple negative, which is a type of breast cancer that is very, very difficult to treat. That just means that like all the medications and all the treatments that they have for the triple negative, it is one of the hardest ones to treat because you can't use estrogen, you can't use progesterone, you can't use any of those drugs to pretty much treat triple negative. So they say it's one of the hardest ones to treat, and that's what I had. So that's what I wanted to let you guys know, the type of breast cancer that I had, and where it was found at it was sitting right here, and it was a pretty big tumor. I couldn't see it if I was just sitting there. I wasn't able to see it. That's why I guess it took me, like when I finally felt it, I didn't even realize it was there because you couldn't see it poking through my chest. But if you was to rub around here, you would feel something under the skin. Now today's video, we're going to talk about, I talked to you guys already about the surgeon that I was recommended to see. We're going to talk a little bit about her. We're going to talk about the testing that I had to go through, some of the procedures that I had to go through before I actually could start chemotherapy. We're also going to talk about the bills that I started receiving once I started chemotherapy. So with further ado, let's jump right in. The surgeon that I was seeing, I told y'all that I read all of her reviews and stuff to find out, get a kind of feel of how she was. So fast forward, I called the office and I scheduled an appointment to go and see her. So the appointment was like a week later, and she asked me to bring my husband or some type of a support system, which I thought was good, being that we were in the pandemic. A lot of doctors' offices wasn't allowing, and still to this day are not allowing people to come in with other people, to keep down the germs and keep down the corona, people from getting it. But she did. She asked me to bring in my husband or someone that would be like a support system for me. So I think my appointment was a Wednesday, and I believe that it was about 3 in the evening. So we get there at 3. Y'all, we didn't leave there till all of 6:30. When we got there, the parking lot was full of cars, full of people going in and out. When we came out of there, the parking lot was empty. It might have had 2 cars there, 2 or 3 cars. So we were there for a good 3 hours or more. This surgeon was awesome. She is awesome. She is awesome. She eased my mind. We were able to talk to her in great detail. We were able to talk to her in detail. My husband had a lot of questions. He was able to ask all of those questions. He talked to her more than I talked to her because I was just sitting there in tears. So he was like my backbone, where he kind of stood in and asked the questions that needed to be asked, because I couldn't get them out. At this point, I'm still kind of uh, in disbelief. But he asked all the questions that needed to be asked. That day, I kind of felt like me, him, and her, we bonded. And she just took her time. She drew a whole, and I'm gonna insert a picture up here, picture that she drew for us to kind of walk us through what happened, how did this happen, how did it come about, what's going on now, if about the how it's triple negative, why we can't treat it with estrogen, why we can't treat it with progesterone. So she just kind of went into great detail about everything. So that really eased our mind a lot. And from there, she scheduled. Oh, it was a whole array of tests that I had to go and get done before I actually started the chemotherapy. She said she just needed to take about a year of my life, make things better for me. And it's pretty much been coming up in May. It'll be 1 year, um, which to me it's an easy year with the pandemic going on. We're not getting out doing a lot, so you're pretty much in, and you don't feel like you're missing anything. So that was the good part. Um, some of the tests that I ended up having to take before I started chemo. First, I had to have a port placement, and I'll insert a picture um, of what that is, what that looked like. And what that is they went in and put a port in to my chest. It was here. Um, it was an outpatient procedure. What it is, they put it's like a tube that they run from here up in your neck down to in your chest, down through your heart, because the heart, of course, is the biggest muscle in the body. And when they're administering chemo, they need a stable vein to do that through. And if you don't have stable veins, I don't know if, I think most people get them, but I have seen people getting chemo that didn't have it. Maybe they had bigger veins, or I'm not sure. But I ended up having to get the port placement. I went in and was out probably in a couple of hours. So it was pretty easy, easier than I thought. With the port placement, it didn't take that long. I was in and out within the matter of a couple of hours, and most of the hours were spent before which is when I got there. I had to speak with the doctor who was doing the port placement, and with the anesthesia. I had to meet all of those people, and they kind of explained to me and went over what was going to happen. And of course, they knocked me out, gave me the medicine, and I was gone. Woke up 45 minutes later, and it was done, and I was in the waiting area, not the waiting room, in a holding area where they kind of can monitor you. So the port placement, and y'all, to be honest with you, that was the first thing that I had to get done. I was super, I was terrified. Like, it scared me, because thinking of something going into your heart, and it just got complicated to me at that point, because I'm like, why do I need this? Why do I have to get this? So I had to calm myself down, and the only way they're going to be able to fix you is that if you allow them to. So you have to be in good graces. You have to keep a positive attitude about it, and just know that it's all going to be okay in the end. So I went ahead and went through the port placement, woke up, nothing was different. I mean, I didn't feel any different, but it was in, and I didn't feel any different. So that was a good thing. Other tests that I had to, and if y'all see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes so I don't leave anything out. Other tests that I had to take before I actually can start the chemo was I did a PET scan, and I'm going to be inserting pictures up here of these machines and little clips of this stuff so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. The PET scan is just a big machine, and what it does is that it is used to detect cancer in the body, so that they'll know, they can be sure that the cancer is where it's supposed to be and it hadn't spread to any other areas of the body. I've actually done a PET scan twice since I've been going through chemo, through treatment. I also did a genealogy test, a gene test, the test for BRCA1 and BRCA2. Those are two gene mutations that that can be passed down to you. So they used that test to detect if these genes were passed to you, and mine did come back that it was positive BRCA2, which just means the gene mutation it was passed down to me from father's side, one of them. But yeah, that's what that test was. I also had to have an MRI. I think I did the MRI once, and out of all the tests that I actually took, the MRI was, to me, the weirdest one, and the I'm just gonna say it was weird, because they had me on this machine, and it was like I was with my knees bent on this machine. My breast was hanging out of the hole in the bottom of the chair or seat or whatever it was, and you go into this machine, and it kind of makes you sick, because it's doing a lot of shaking and moving you. It was just uncomfortable. The whole experience of that was very uncomfortable. I didn't like it. I almost got sick and threw up, but I didn't, thank God. I kind of just like held my breath until the feeling of sickness went away. And that was the worst one. I mean, it wasn't painful or anything. It's just that it was a lot going on with that test, so I did not like it. I also had to have a heart test done. After they put that port in, they wanted to test my heart before I started the chemo to be sure that my heart was good and that it would be able to withstand the chemotherapy. So I did that once. I had a nutritionalist who was assigned to me that I could speak to about nutrition, which was good. That's a good thing. Prior to, I've been on a vegetarian journey for a while. I did relapse, and then I jumped back in. Before I found out I had, before I found out that I had breast cancer. I was already eating healthy and on a journey of eating healthy. So she was able to kind of drop a few gems to me, and I kind of used those during my daily regimens of eating. During my daily regimen of eating, I used some of the things that she suggested to me, which were good things. And then also I was able to go and view the chemotherapy room that I was going to be administered the chemotherapy in. So that kind of helped me to be familiar with where I would be receiving treatment and what it was like, um, the space that I was going to be in. So I was that helped a lot. I remember I remember the first time that I actually went into that chemotherapy room and did a walkthrough of it and viewed it. My husband was with me, and then I had to go up front to make my first appointment to actually start chemotherapy, which was June 29th was my start date. I remember just standing in front of the receptionist, and I was bawling, y'all. I was crying, and I mean, I had all sorts of emotions going on in me. I was, I just couldn't believe that here I am, and I was getting ready to embark on this long journey, and I didn't know what to expect. I mean, my thoughts, my heart, everything. My heart was heavy. Everything. It was a lot. Um, and then I remember actually going to my first chemotherapy appointment, um, to have the chemotherapy administered for the first time. My husband took off for work. He drove me there. Um, when we got in the parking lot, we prayed together. Um, of course, he couldn't go in because of the pandemic. So we prayed together in the car. And I got up and went in and, didn't know what to expect, but hoping for the best. Everything went fine. I didn't have any symptoms or anything, nothing, I felt fine afterward, which was a good thing. They have a whole bunch of nurses there monitoring you. One nurse is assigned to you, but then there's 3 or 4 other nurses there as well who can assist you if you just so happen to need assistance. Um, so yeah, that was the first actual chemo. We're gonna get into chemotherapy a little bit later, go into a little more detail about the drugs and stuff that they use to treat my breast cancer. Um, One of the other things that really had me razzled was after I started receiving chemo, like, y'all, I never been the type of person to go to the doctor a lot. Like, I would go and get my yearly annual checkup once a year, and after that I really didn't see a doctor because nothing was ever wrong with me to have to see a doctor. But after I was diagnosed and I had to see doctor after doctor after doctor, y'all, these bills started rolling in, and oh my God, I was just sitting there like they would come in the mail and I would just set them to the side. And one Saturday, my husband was outside working in the yard, cutting the grass. And I was sitting at the table and I was like, let me get these bills and kind of go through them. So I got them. I grabbed the stack off the kitchen where we keep the mail at, and got to the table, sat down, start opening up these bills, and slowly but surely, I just sunk into a deep place, and they were just all laid out in front of me, and I'm just looking at them like, what the hell? Like, I can't. This is a lot. Like, do I supposed to pay for all of this? It was so overwhelming to me because I never seen so many bills before in my life. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, I surely don't make enough money to be able to afford all of this. Like, this is crazy. And I do have insurance on my job, but still, I know the insurance wasn't going to cover all of that. So I just sat there and next thing you know, tears start flowing, and I started praying, asking God to help me with this. I just didn't know. So my husband, I don't know what, I think he was coming in to get a drink of water or something, and he seen me sitting at the table, and he was trying to talk to me, but I guess he realized I wasn't talking back. I was just sitting there. So he looked at me, and he seen I was crying, and I was just like, what are we gonna do with all of this? And he just sat down beside me, and you know, we start talking about how to come up with the money and to try to pay this stuff and try to get it together. He's like my coach. He's the one that's able to calm me down and bring me back to where I need to be. And so he did that. And go a little further with the story, let me tell y'all how good God is. When I first started chemo, I was doing 1 round of chemo every other week. Must have been when I was looking at the bills, I probably had taken 1 treatment. And so like 2 treatment later, I got to my appointment for my treatment. And the lady at the front desk, she says, someone has been trying to reach out to you, and they can't seem to reach you. And she said, I'm going to tell them to call you right now since you're here. I said, okay, that's fine. So I'm wondering, okay, who is it? So I sat down in the waiting area, and then my phone rang. It was a lady from the accounts rep. She dealt with patient accounts and stuff. And y'all, she says to me, I hadn't even spoke to anybody about the bills and all of this, but she says to me, she asked me a few questions about my job and my husband's job, if I was married and all of that. It was like 3 or 4 questions, and how much I make, how much my husband make. And after I told her that, and I was sitting there wondering, like, when she asked me how much my husband make, I was like, ooh, I kind of didn't want to tell her, but I didn't want to lie either. Because I'm like, if this gonna qualify me for anything, if I tell her how much he make, it might quickly disqualify me. But I went ahead and was truthful to her, and I told her. And then she says to me a few minutes later, she says, everything is covered. She said, you don't have to worry about anything. She said, if you get a bill or if you get any harassing phone calls or anything from anybody, just reach back out to me. It's all covered. Y'all, I tell y'all how good God is. Like, I was there at my appointment, and I was just sitting there like, oh my God, and I asked her, I said, everything? She said, everything is covered. You don't have to worry about anything. Y'all, blessings, okay? Blessings. Won't he do it? Yes, he will. So that right there, it took so much off of me, so much off of my husband, because we both were sitting there like, what the what, how are we going to do this? And in less time than you know, God had and came through and showed up and showed out for me, okay? So that was so awesome. After that day, I haven't had any more issues with bills and things of that sort. So God is good. That I can say. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to come to you guys today and talk about. This is part 2 of the 10 videos that I'm gonna do. Yeah, that is it. And once again, make sure you hit the like button and go ahead and subscribe and share this channel with anyone and everyone that you know. Stay tuned for video number 3. And like I said, thank you for allowing me to share my story with you. See you guys on the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.